This episode of Goosebumps Crew is sponsored by Stevie Wicks Candle Company, specializing in quality-made scented candles. Link in the description, but more on that later. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Goosebumps Crew Podcast. I'm your host, Isaiah Vargas, also known as the Goosebumps channel on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'm joined once again by my Goosebumps cohorts, Bjorn Panwick, Goosebumps Aussie fan, and Nick Shawin. Unfortunately, Micah, also known as the Ultimate Goosebumps fan, was unable to join us this evening, but we're going to talk some more Goosebumps anyway. And tonight, we got a very special treat because we're going to be talking about some of our least favorite episodes of the 90s Goosebumps show. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the classic Goosebumps reissues, the reprints that came out in the late 2000s. But yeah, so we got some Goosebumps to talk about. You guys ready?
Yeah!
Yeah!
All right, well, let's begin. We're going to talk about our least favorite episodes of the original Goosebumps show. And I'll throw my hat into the ring first because I think one that a lot of people love to pick on, and I do as well, is Go Eat Worms. I think that is one of the worst episodes of the original show, as well as being one of the worst books. What did you guys think of that episode personally? Because I think it's not good at all.
I mean, I really have no hate towards it, and I have no love towards it. It's really, like, neutral for me. Like, I watched it, like, twice, I think, my whole life. It's not something that's on my rewatch list, like, ever. So, you know, I mean, if I had to watch it tomorrow, it wouldn't be torture. Let's put it that way. Like some other...
Oh, man, I mean, like, the whole... I don't understand why anyone would have an obsession with worms. I mean, I know he, like, tortured them, sort of, you know, like, but, man, I don't get it. I really don't. Like, I understand people that have, like, an obsession for, like, spiders and maybe scorpions. Like, that's a little cooler, if you ask me. I mean, misunderstood, but, like, worms? Like, come on. I mean, you know, look, the book is also a little bit so I knew going into the episode that I was probably not going to enjoy it. Although there are some moments that were kind of chilling, I guess, when I was a kid. Like when he's sleeping and like all the worms, kind of like they did in the new series where they're like crawling up through his nose and in his ears. I was like, oh, like that's a bit like much.
Yeah.
So I must admit there were some moments in there where I was like, this is kind of cool, but the overall plot and story and direction just, it was terrible in my opinion. I mean, and the giant worms, like, I mean,
It got too much into the campy. It got too much into I think it was a little too gross of an episode. I mean, you can obviously go gross for a Goosebumps episode, but I think this one just took it a little bit too far. It's not a really amazing story idea. Like I said, I don't know anyone who would have an obsession with worms, at least to the degree of this kid. And I don't know, he's just kind of a dick. I mean, he's like he's just torturing everyone with these gross worms, and it's like it doesn't make him endearing, it doesn't make him fun. I'm not really rooting for him. And I don't know where so these worms want to like get revenge on him, and I don't know, yeah, and then there's just this giant worm for some reason in this big old like cave underground, and like out of nowhere, I don't know, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I think it's just an episode that leaned way too heavy into the gross stuff that it kind of forgot to really tell an interesting or believably scary story. So I don't know, that's where I land for that. It's not my least favorite episode of the show, but it's one of my least favorites personally. But
top five, like
top bottom five.
Bottom five least favorite. I mean, yeah, like honestly, but you know what? To those out there who do like the episode, hey, you know, you're allowed to like what you want. And I mean, if Go Eat Worms is one of your top 5 favorite episodes, like, good on you, man. Like, honestly, I'm sure there's someone out there that loves this episode, but me,
we cannot be friends.
Yeah, the ending of it was just ridiculous too. Like,
No, the ending was so weird. It was like, you know what? I think so. There's two things with this episode. Number one, I think the ending's better in the book because I like the idea that a butterfly has him nailed to like what? He has him like nailed to a board or something instead of just getting drug out by like a fish, and it's just kind of like, will you let me go? And he's like, will ya? Okay. I think the fish actually lets him go by the end, and it's like, well, okay, you just kind of got rid of all the tension. But this is also a case where I think the new series actually outdid the original episode, because I think the episode Go Eat Worms in the new series is actually far better than the one in the original, and that's not often something that you can say about the new series.
Yeah.
But
it's not a far stretch to beat that episode from the 90s, but granted, it's also not a far stretch that the new series could beat anything of the 90s. But this is the one case, yeah.
Yeah, where it did. I think it just had better ideas. I like the idea of the worms. First of all, not to get too off track, but
It's like a
Lucas. Well, it is like a symbiote, and I like that Lucas isn't obsessed with worms. It's like it actually happens by accident, like, and he just kind of likes it because he can't really get hurt. The worms like help him, and then I actually like more that the worms form a giant creature as opposed to they're just being like a giant worm.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the idea of a creature made of worms is not only more creative, but is more terrifying than just a giant worm. So that's one instance where I think the new series really outdid the original episode. But yeah, like you said, it
became one giant worm by the end of the new Goosebumps series episode in a way.
Yeah, but like,
you know, they try to pull the gummy bear a bit from, you know, Goosebumps 2.
Unfortunately, there's no gummy bear song for worms, as far as I know.
Maybe there should be.
Another episode that I think is really bad, and honestly, it may be my least favorite, is Say Cheese and Die Again. And we talked about this a little bit in the episode on Goosebumps sequels, but Say Cheese and Die Again is one of the worst follow-ups to a Goosebumps story, and the episode is no exception. Like, the episode is just awful. It's horrible. It has, first of all, how dare you get rid of Ryan Gosling? Shame on you. How dare you?
About this. Literally, the only thing I had to say about this episode was you got rid of Ryan Gosling, so your star power he's gone. I mean,
is there anyone from the first episode? I don't think so. Sherry's not played by the same actress. I don't think the parents are. I don't think maybe the brother is the same actor, but he also looks different, so I wouldn't be surprised. There's nothing. There's no Spidey in this story. Like, it's really, I don't know. That's another thing why I don't like this episode, is because it changes so much. It's almost unrecognizable to the first episode, to the original.
It is.
And we talked about this in the sequel episode, but I just think the idea of a sequel to Say Cheese and Die where he goes back and messes with the camera again for a school report is a really dumb idea. And I'm sorry, but there's one shot in that episode where he first finds out he's fat, and like, it is the absolute worst effect in the entire series is that effect on him to make him look fat in the episode. It looks better later because they actually put like makeup on him and he's in a suit, but like that first one where they like use CG essentially is terrible. It's awful.
It is terrible. And like you said, how he goes back and messes with the camera again. It's like Nathan Bratt in the new series like wanted to bring Slappy back to life to help him with his story. It's like, are you for real? Like, why is it that people have to keep going back to things in the Goosebumps universe? Like, I don't understand. Like, obviously, look what Slappy put you through in the new series. Like, I mean, going off track a little bit now, but it's a similar situation. So he's like, hey, I'm going to bring him back to life and he can help me finish this freaking thing I'm writing. And then it's the same with this. It's like he went back to get with the camera to help with the school report. Like, why?
Again, your best friend disappeared. Police were investigating. You almost got I believe it was his father. I still haven't figured out whether or not it's his father or his brother, but your father almost got killed because of this thing. And I don't know, just because your teacher's kind of a dick and you don't write something that seems believable. Like, dude, why do you write a report about a cursed camera? Do you really think someone's gonna believe you? You think everybody's gonna be like, oh, do tell? Like, nobody's gonna believe you. Nobody's gonna believe you. I'm sorry. Look, kids in Goosebumps books, I'm sorry. No one's gonna believe you. If you go around telling people that a camera is causing the future to happen, everyone's gonna think you're crazy. I'm sorry. That's just how the world works.
It is. Brady, there are no wolves in the swamp.
Yeah, that one kind of is like, I feel like that one's on the parents, but in this scenario, it's on you, Greg. I'm sorry, Greg, but everything that happens in this episode.
It's on the parents in that one, but at the same time, I mean, I get where he was going with that because yeah, it's the same Goosebumps trope that's throughout basically everything.
Well, that was the one instance where I'm like, the parents are a little too freaking stupid. It's like, you got, okay, like, again, we're getting off track, but in the Werewolf of Fever Swamp, it's literally, there's some kind of animal chews through your chain fence and literally bites through wood clean, and you think it's just a random dog. No, and they're worried about deer. It's like Grady's like, do you think, like, what kind of animal does that to a fence? And they're like, oh, I gotta catch these deer. It's like, who cares about the deer? Get the hell out of Dodge.
Oh man.
Clearly that little dog. I mean, now, Vandal was a decent sized dog, but he wasn't no like mastiff or anything crazy. You know what I mean? He was basically like your average dog.
Yeah, dogs can't bite through wood that clean.
Right. Yeah. The fact that he just went through this chain link fence, killed all these deer, and somehow, just, I don't know, like the parents were so dumb. And
yeah, for smart people, they're pretty dumb.
Yeah.
They were scientists.
Yeah, I don't get it. But anyway, back to say shit and die again.
Die.
say cheese and shit your pants. I don't know. It's terrible. The more I talk about it, the more I hate it more, because it's such a dumb idea for a story. It doesn't have any of the original actors back. Again, maybe the brother is the original actor, but I don't think so. It doesn't look as good. It doesn't have the same pacing. It's too goofy. And you know what? I will say, I do kind of find the ending funny. Like, I like how the asshole teacher kind of gets what's coming to him. Like, that part was funny, and how he's like losing his hair, and then Greg's like, he goes from shock to like, he's like, all right, man, hey, look, I told you.
I told you, bitch.
It's like, there you go. There's your proof. Honestly, he should have done that. If you're going to go back and get that camera, just take his picture and be like, you believe me now? Like, don't mess with it yourself.
Yeah, I don't go out of my way to go back and rewatch these episodes as well. Like, generally when I watch Goosebumps, I'm just going to put on the ones that I love, which is like a good 85% of them.
That's the thing. There's this show is cheesy, but sometimes it leans a little too much into the cheesy. Like, I think it gets a little too goofy. Like, you remember at the beginning of the episode where Greg has a nightmare sequence with the skeleton, and he has the camera. He's like, say cheese, and like, come on, man.
Hey.
Even across the episode, they keep saying, like, you keep hearing like some kind of voice saying like, say cheese, say cheese, say cheese. Like, it's like, that's dumb. That's stupid. So, I don't know. Say cheese and die again. It sucks. we're moving on. We're moving on. I want to talk a little bit about some of those episodes that are based on the Tales to Give You Goosebumps stories, because I think a lot of the crap in this series kind of comes from that group of episodes. Now, not all of them are bad. I do like The House of No Return. I think that's a pretty good ghost story. I didn't mind Click, to be honest. I thought that one was kind of funny.
Hey, there's a movie based on that now, and I still believe
that Adam Sandler ripped that off. Yeah, I think so too.
Even just the scene where he's changing the colors of the fish, dude, he does the exact same thing in the car, and he goes, "Oh, don't get the Hulk angry," and then he changes into purple and goes, "Oh, there's Barney. I love you. You love me." He does the same thing with the fish in the Click episode. He changes them to green to purple. I'm like, dude, they've literally ripped up this. Like, did R.L. Stine get any kind of compensation for this? Like, that's a question I'd ask him. Did they come to you when they wanted to use your story of Click from Goosebumps for the movie? Like,
I love the scene in Click where he's like messing with the bully. Like that's funny. Like,
oh yeah.
Or he's like changing the channel on him, and he like changes clothes and he turns into the bunny. He's like, "Oh, can you say Holman is a bully?" Like I thought that was funny. I like how the friend, even though the friend is like, "You should get rid of that," that's the one part where he's like, "Yeah, this is kind of awesome."
Yeah, I think the creepiest character was the president of Armchair Electronics. I think he was pretty creepy. Like, continued misuse of the Verona XG. Like, anytime he would call him up, and he would talk to him, I thought that was pretty creepy. And the little jingle, din 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 din, like,
yeah,
that was the creepy part of the episode, in my opinion. Anything to do with that was sort of a little bit kind of creepy and chilling, but overall, it wasn't really what I consider one of the more spooky episodes.
Oh no, I mean, I more like it just because it's the right amount of goofy for me, and it just has scenes that I find are funny in it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think The House of No Return is really the only one that like I think is a legitimately good episode, because it actually is creepy. I think it has a really good ending.
Scary.
And I don't know. I'm a sucker for ghost stories. Like, that's just a really good ghost story. But most of them are really bad. Like an old story. I don't like an old story.
Yeah, because your grandkids is a great idea for your old buddies. Like, come on, man. Like, that's just messed up.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that episode for what it was because I thought that was a hilarious concept. The fact that
it's hilarious, but
has like their aunt or whatever she was to them, like turning them old to pimp out to her old gal pals. I thought that was a concept. But Click, I didn't care for Click whatsoever. I watched it like one time and never again. It was just like, I don't know, like the whole thing, like, but I will say his sister was super annoying and I loved when he used that remote on her. So
yeah, I was like, thank you, Lord.
Yes.
Another one, but yeah, I mean, old story. We talked about an old story in the past, so I won't dwell on it too much. But it's not. I don't think it's terrible. I just don't think it's a good episode. But it's fun. It's a funny episode.
Yeah. It's quirky. It's one of those like I remember watching that episode with my mom, and even she kind of was like, "What the hell is this? Like, why is she like feeding them these like?" And then when she was pimping them out for her like old gal pals, yeah, she was like, "What is this, like grooming in Goosebumps? Like, what is this?"
It's exactly what it is.
And I'm like, it's they did weird stuff in some of these movies and shows, and Goosebumps had a few controversial stuff, so this must be one of those sort of moments. Like, and can we just talk about the fact that they put that episode on the Bride the Living Dummy VHS? I just got to quickly point that out. That was a very weird combination.
That is a really weird pairing of episodes.
While we're talking about it, yeah, like that's a weird pairing, definitely. Yeah. But one episode we got to really talk about that was, pretty bad. Awesome Ants.
Yeah. I don't have any harsh feelings towards it. I just think it's a dumb idea. Because, I mean, again, we talked about Go Eat Worms. This is basically just Go Eat Worms with ants. Like, it's just go eat with giant ants. You got giant ants instead of giant worms. And they already did giant ants. They did a giant ant in More Monster Blood, so it's not even that original. But there's also strained peas. I hate stories about babies like that try to like older kids and baby siblings, and they like, and this is just dumb. Like, this is the like parents won't believe me setup than the most annoying extreme.
Yeah, monster baby. It's a monster baby. Like, didn't it? I swear it. I haven't seen the episode in like 5-6+ years. It talks, right? The baby.
It
talks.
has the ugliest CG mouth I've ever seen. Like, I'm sorry, between this and freaking Say Cheese and Die, this show had some bad CGI. You want to talk about the bad CGI in Goosebumps 2 and Goosebumps 1? Goosebumps 90 show was terrible CGI. And yes, I mean, you can attribute it's the 90s. I get it. But it looks so bad. And yes, it's strained peas. The baby talks. It's a really annoying, like, I'm gonna be the only one, me. With this realistic mouth that just goes like, it's ugly episode. It looks like freaking Son of the Mask.
We'll do something like that. They had like CG eyes over whatever the green.
Yeah, they put like monster eyes like in one scene, and it's just like, this is stupid. This is dumb. It eats a rat in the episode. It eats like a hamster or something, and then it coughs it up, and it's just like.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then the parents find out off screen that the kid is not theirs. So they basically do this whole switched at birth thing where, they got the kids switched up and they got like a monster baby, and they somehow didn't think that there was anything wrong with this kid because, again, Goosebumps parents are dumb as hell. And then the ending is
100% involved. Yeah, it seems like that's another trope, is it's all on the kids, which is what Stein goes for in the books too. So I mean, that's not surprising, I guess, but
I just think this is
a little smarter.
Yeah, well, I get what he's going for. He's trying to do the whole thing where the kids, like, nobody believes them, so they feel isolated. It's like, I get it. And there's times where that can be done well. I think Living Dummy 2 is a time, a lot of the Slappy books are kind of like that. But this was just like, this is your kid, and your kid's not acting right. Like, but you're gonna call your son like crazy, or you're gonna punish him because you're too freaking stupid to figure it out. And then they find out, and I don't think they even like apologize or anything. They're just kind of like, oh well, I guess, yeah. It's like, you fucking assholes! Like, say sorry to your child. He tried to tell you. And and they still end up getting a baby that can talk. So I guess that's just that.
Yeah.
That was such a dumb it's so dumb. It like makes me angry how dumb that episode is.
Oh yeah. It's terrible. What's your least favorite episode, Sean? Over already said it.
No, we didn't say it. Probably unpopular opinion, but like I said, I don't, before we even started recording, like, I don't really like the trilogy episodes. I don't know.
I don't hate them.
Probably my absolute least favorite episode, but trilogy is like right above that to me. Like, I'd rather watch Go Eat Worms and all that other, crappy.
Trilogy is interesting. I mean, it was the only episodes or group of episodes in the original series to not be based on a book or a story. It was a completely original concept, right. And it's an interesting concept. But yeah, it's a little too weird because so you got the first episode with the snooty, greedy girl, and she turns into a pig, which is here we are. We're making pig noises. Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the channel if you're new, by the way. Anyway, no, so you got that first episode. I like the second one the best. I like the idea of a baseball game that's like completely rigged, and it's kind of like they keep on messing with it. Like they move the bases farther away, or you have to like traverse a cliff to get to the next one. I kind of like that. And then the third one's just like, oh no, I guess we got to save the little kid, I guess.
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of the trilogy episodes. Like, yeah, I think part 2 was probably my favorite of the 3, even though that fire CGI effect was just god awful. Let's not forget that. But I think story-wise, I think I enjoyed it more because, I think the baseball concept is probably what got me, honestly. Because I like baseball, even though it's not a thing here in Australia. But I do like baseball, so I think I can thank the Sandlot movies for that. It made me a fan of baseball. But yeah, no, I think, I agree with you on part 2 probably being the better one out of the 3. I mean, I didn't really like the whole first one. I think it was, once again, I think the adult characters were probably the scariest thing about it in Carlsville. Like when they couldn't get their lemonade, just the reaction, I think, just from all the adults was kind of like, she was squeezing us, like, get the
it was kind of funny. I like the extras. I thought I like when she brought up Carl as like, Carl loves bacon. Oh, Carl. And then he just appears. He's like on top. He's like, get the pig. Like that was kind of funny. I thought it was funny.
Is he sets you up. Carl sets you up so that he can get you in the end. Like that's the whole concept of the trilogy series, and I don't think they're the greatest episodes, but but then there's some episodes that, like, I know a lot of people that aren't big fans of The Perfect School, but I actually liked The Perfect School.
I thought Perfect School was good.
I think it was creepy concept. Imagine being cloned only to be stuck in a freaking cage forever. Like, what even happens to the kids eventually? Do they starve? Like what is the final, what happens? Like, I mean, obviously Stein always leaves it up to your imagination in the end, but the idea of like being taken to the school where like they're literally like cloning you and they're going to stick you in a cage and send the clone home with your parents, like, I think that's such a cool idea. And I've had some people tell me they don't like it, but I love that episode, man. I think The Perfect School is one of those. Unpopular opinion, maybe. Well, apparently not for us.
No, I agree. I think it's not one of my favorites, but it is one that I think does a really good job. I think it is one that does merit its double length, because I feel like it does really set up the tension in this place. And even without the clone thing, I think just the idea of being stuck in a school like this where they kind of ride you and you just kind of feel isolated and alone, I think is kind of a creepy concept. Nick, you mentioned Teacher's Pet. Let's talk about Teacher's Pet. Because that one is bad too. And you know what? It's a shame because the main Michelle Reese, who was played the main actress, she did die shortly after. Was it shortly after the episode finished filming or premiered? I think it was after they finished filming. She did pass away. Yeah, it's sad, but I don't know. That's another one where I think it just meanders. It's not really interesting. I think the effects are really bad. I remember like seeing the ending for the first time with the fly with the human head on it, and I was like, that is stupid as hell.
You got that wrong.
You got that wrong. And like, and it's like, it's not even like good looking because they like messed with his face, so his like eyes are big and his mouth is small, so it's just like,
I don't know. Look like a fly human face. I get, but oh god, it was so bad.
It was really bad. It was terrible. And what was there was another Tales to Give You Goosebumps
like, at all
episode that I really didn't like. I can't remember what it was. Well, while I think about it, let's talk about some of the ones I didn't like from the earlier seasons. Namely, I do not like Night in Terror Tower. I do not like Night in Terror Tower.
Oh.
I am sorry.
Opinions that you're too afraid to say.
I am sorry, but I do not like Night in Terror Tower because I think it is boring. I think it is a very boring episode. Because, okay, so you got time travel, okay? So you got two kids that time travel back to the past. You got an executioner coming after them, and they are revealed to be a long-lost king or prince and princess, and they were sent to the future.
Spoiler alert!
And they were sent to the future, but they also essentially have nothing, and their memories, they quickly find out their memories are fake, so it's kind of pointless. It's a pointless story. I'm sorry. I think the book's better. The book is fine. I don't think the episode's very good. I think the extras in it are also very weird, and they overact a lot. And I just walk out of it saying, man, the British are dicks. Like, everybody in this episode is just really mean to these two kids, like, that are just trying to...
Get with me. We sell British pounds, hey?
Yeah. Like, it's just, these people are so mean to these kids, like... So they're running for their lives from this strange man, and they get out of the sewer, and this guy is just like, what are you doing in the sewer? And they're just like, there's a man chasing us. And he's like, I don't believe you. I shall call the police. Like, two kids just said they were being chased by someone, and you're going to call the cops on them? Like, that's kind of messed up, dude. And then they go to the hotel, and the hotel guy is just like, what do you want? What is your room? Like, it's like, dude, can you try to look a little like you care a little bit?
I don't know. That dude was at work. I totally understand that.
I mean, it's just like the moment these kids come up to him, he's just like,
his job if it wasn't for people, you know.
And then you got the woman in like the big frilly coat, and she's like, do you think it might be possible to get a room sometime this evening?
You've got that nailed. You've actually got that down pretty well, that line.
Thank you.
How many times have you watched that episode?
I've watched it a few times. My favorite one, though, just because of how insane it is when they're in the restaurant, and there's the woman who's eating like the pastry, and she's just like, and then like she gets like a little bit on her face. She's like, like, Jesus, calm down. Oh no!
What are you doing more?
But besides that, it's just like, okay, so Catherine Short, who is in Haunted Mask, plays Sue in this episode, and Corey Sevier plays Eddie. Now, these two kids are fine, and actually, I believe that they would be like brother and sister. They have good chemistry. I just think that there's this episode is just a lot of running around, and like, it doesn't really go anywhere. And then when they go to the past, it's cool. I like the set pieces they have. I like the castle. I think the castle's pretty neat. I just think it's really boring. Like, I feel like it just takes a while to get where we need to be. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense they'd be sent back or sent to the future, because the guy gets them anyway. So yes, Nick.
I gotta disagree just a little bit, because so I found it intriguing, at least when the episode's progressing, like they start to lose their memory. Like, I can't remember who my mom and dad are. I can't remember this. And you as an audience member still don't know why, if you haven't read the book. So you're sitting there going through this journey with them. And then even when they go to the past, like, they're obviously still don't know where they are, like who they are. And as it slowly progresses, I mean, it is a little slow, but at the same time, I kind of see why they were trying to go that route, because to them, they were thrown into the future. That's all they knew was the present. That was their present, I should say. So
Yeah.
going back to the past, not knowing where they are, who they are, until they meet the sorcerer, and obviously they get their memories back. and things like that. And then that's when the story kind of really picked up. So, I mean, I get why they did what they did, but I will agree, all the extras, man, they really wanted their 15 seconds of fame to really.
That was like Spider-Man 2 levels of extras overreacting. No,
I
you
guess
know what? And,
tonally, it was kind of like slow, like, you know,
Yeah.
like I get
Right.
what you mean, like, but I know a lot of people that love the episode too. Like,
Oh,
it's just for some people, it's like the favorite, you know. But you know what I think it was? It's like the most common, like back in the 90s, it was like the most common VHS tape you could get for Goosebumps. Like, so I think a
Oh, yeah.
lot of people bought it and watched it, and I think it might have became, like, I can't really say from, well, actually, no, I sort of can. Like, kids in the 90s, that was such an accessible episode. And like, even like when the movie came out, for instance, they were replaying some episodes on the Disney Channel. And they even played like a Night Terror Tower, Night of the Living Dummy, the more like 2-part episodes. But when I was a kid, even in like the early 2000s, when I just caught sort of the tail end of the Goosebumps hype, that was the VHS tape I was finding everywhere. Like, I could never find Night of the Living Dummy. I could never find the Well Fever Swamp or Stay Out of the Basement. Like, those things were rare. They were hard to get.
See,
The Night Terror Tower was so easy to find. Like, and I think I watched it a lot as a kid, just because I had it, you know. And yeah, but I kind of get what you mean now watching it. Like, yeah, tonally it's kind of slow and a little boring, but it picks up and it gets more exciting later down the line. That's for sure. I think the moment the executioner steps foot in the room and he starts demanding the stones, like, and to come with him, I think that's where things start to pick up. But that whole opening sequence is quite slow. Yes, definitely.
Well, okay, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit because thinking about it more. Okay, so yes, I do like that. As the episode goes on, they start to realize that their memories are gone. I think that is intriguing. Like I said, I like the sets, and I will say the one thing I do like about the opening is how they're kind of talking when they're talking like about the executions and all that and the torture machines. Like, I think for a kid having to like really think about that kind of stuff is a little creepy. And yeah, when we go back, when we start getting into the meat and potatoes, we find out we meet Morgrid. That's the name of the sorcerer. So when we meet Morgrid and we find out who he is and he tells us like what's going on, then it starts getting interesting because you're like, okay, now this is where, like, this is why we're here. This is what it's all about. Which is kind of why I wish they would just kind of yada yada so we find out. I don't know. I guess I don't know what I really want from this episode. I just think my main problem is it's just boring. I just think it spends a little too much time building things up. I don't think I like that it doesn't explain a lot, but I also kind of wish it explained a little more because you're just kind of like, okay, well, what does this all mean? These kids don't know where they are. There's this guy chasing them. He's just like, you'll come with me. And it's just like, well, okay, so, but why? Like, why is this guy chasing them? Who is he? Like, I kind of would like to know a little more going in, so I'm like, okay, like, this is kind of why we are where we are. But I'm nitpicking, and I'm probably in a minority with that. It's just, let's put it this way. I don't hate the episode. It's just, of the, like, original two-parters, it's my least favorite of those.
It's the slower one. It's the slower one of the original two-parters. Like, and I get it. I've met a lot of people that have said that they're not a big fan of that episode too, and then I meet a lot of people that say they do like it. So I think Terror Tower is like one of those. It might be one of those love it, hate it sort of things, like 50-50. Like, some people really gel with it and some people really don't. Like, some people just want the monsters. You know, this feels a little more like, yeah, like medieval and old school, and some people aren't really into that. You know, and I guess it would have more of a slow kind of a tone, you know, to the actual feel of it and the setting and everything. But yeah, no, it's one of those agree to disagree episodes for a lot of people, I think. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I know people like this episode. I'm not going to take that away from you guys. I don't think it's terrible. I'm not like, oh, this episode sucks. It's just not one that I personally gel with. Personally. So.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. What about It Came From Beneath the Sink? Like, a lot of
like,
love.
I thought it was okay. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I get a lot of love-hate with it. And like just from what I've heard from people that I've spoken to, like some people say they hate the episode and it looks terrible and it's like the acting is atrocious. And I'm like, I kind of get some of the things they're saying, but it's one of those episodes that I grew up with, you know, and I didn't really see any of that as a kid. So now I watch it and I just enjoy it for what it is, you know, like it's
I like the design of the sponge. I think they made the sponge look cool because yes, it looks like a sponge, but it also doesn't. That's something that I think that I like that they did, is that it kind of does and it doesn't look like a sponge, and it has like those red eyes, so it like kind of looks a little creepy. I like how kind of at some points it has like the teeth inside, and it's like really gnarly teeth too. Like that's interesting. And I mean, I don't know. I do like one thing. I do like that even though it kind of starts out like nobody will believe me sort of thing, they kind of drop it midway through because her brother and her friend finally figure out, and then it's the three of them instead of just one person being like, oh, no one believes me. So then it becomes a mission of, okay, now how do we get rid of this thing? So they don't dwell on it too much. That's one thing I like. And then you can focus more on the how are we going to get rid of the monster sort of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
What's another one?
Deep Trouble.
It's gotta be.
There's
Deep Trouble. I don't mind that much. I know a lot of people. Some people don't like season 4. Season 4 was a very, very short season. It was 4 2-part episodes: Cry the Cat, How I Got My Shrunken Head, Ghost Next Door, and Deep Trouble. Ghost Next Door is the one that people like the most.
I honestly think I'm a fan of that episode, to be honest. Like I actually really enjoy it. I remember like as a kid I got the DVD. It was like back when Goosebumps first came out on DVD, and I remember that was one of like the first ones. And I remember like I had that one when I was like, I don't know, 11 or 12, and oh dude, like I used to watch it all the time. Like I love the Ghost Next Door. I love the book, love the episode. That season 4, that's like the little gem episode in my opinion. That's the golden golden episode.
But yeah, I know a lot of
weakest one out of all of them in my opinion anyway. I didn't care for Cry the Cat. I mean, I like the special effects makeup they did for, you know, the actors and stuff, you know, when they showed like, you know, cat lady and stuff.
The mom with like the gnarled up cat face, like that was interesting.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And I mean, I do like the design of Rip itself. Like it doesn't even look like a cat; it looks like a creature. Like that's cool. But I feel like Cry the Cat got a little too meta, because it's the whole thing is that it's a movie. So these are actors on a movie set and they're making a movie, but oh no, it looks like the movie is real, and so there's a lot of correlation. But it's just like I think like it got a little too meta. I don't think it's that interesting. I don't know. I don't hate it. It's just kind of a meh to me. I don't think it had to be a 2-parter personally. I think it could have been a 1-part. There's a lot of the 2-parter episodes I think could have just been 1 part. We'll get into one of them in a little bit because there is one I think sorely needed to be only 1 part. But I didn't mind Deep Trouble. I didn't think Deep Trouble was that bad of an episode personally. I thought it was kind of interesting.
It kept my attention. I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't one I would throw as like one of the worst episodes they had.
No.
Definitely not in my top 10, but it's also not in my bottom 10 either. So it sits kind of somewhere in between all the other episodes.
I kind of like that it ends with I mean, again, that's another episode I don't think needed to be 2 parts. I think they could have essentially put it in 1 episode. But I did like the giant puffer fish that's like shooting out like what do you call it? Like I'll call it stingers. It's shooting out stingers all over the room and like breaking stuff. I like the mutated fish people, even though some of them are recycled designs from like Shocker on Shock Street. I thought that was kind of cool. I like the one that's kind of like a crab. So he's got like the big red face and then like the big crab claw. Like that was cool. No, I thought it was interesting. I don't think it's a great episode, but I I don't mind it. I'd put it on every once in a while, and it keeps my attention.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about How I Got My Shrunken Head. Like
that one's weird. That is a weird episode. I was so tired of hearing that freaking spell.
One thing I gotta know is what the hell was that game he was playing on the computer? Where he's literally saying Kalia, Kalia. It was like the weird jungle man.
Kahlua. I could use some Kahlua.
Was it jungle or something? Like I always wondered what that was, but I must admit I kind of like the design of the Shrunken Head. I thought it was pretty cool. Like it looked like the book sort of. Like I didn't mind the design of it. I mean, but yeah, it's another episode. But when you look at who's actually in that episode, it's pretty crazy. Like you have from Night of the Living Dummy 2, you have Mr. Kramer, the dad from Night of the Living Dummy 2.
John Kramer? John Kramer. Oh no.
From Seven. So you've got a few other actors from other episodes in there too. So I guess that's what kind of helped it for me as well. Like there was some familiar faces. But
it's just a weird episode.
It was cringe when he went to like Hawaii or whatever, and there was like the Elvis dude. Like, you know, I thought it was all, you know, cringe to me. But yeah, I mean, some people I've spoken to love that episode. Like one of my good friends that lives here in Australia.
When he's like rising, he finally uses the power and he rises out and he's like doing backflips in the air and stuff. It's like, come on. He's like, Kalia. It's just like, come on.
That on my channel for a little bit there. I was taking the piss out. I kept putting my videos like Kalia.
I love like the end of part 1 with the guy with like the white eyes, and that's the note you leave off on that episode with. Or part 1, that is. I don't know. That one's just, I don't hate it. I just think it's weird. It's one of the really weird episodes and one of the weird books, to be honest.
It would be better if it did have John Kramer. I agree with this.
We just have John Kramer. Just have freaking Saw and Goosebumps. Like, that'd be funny. Kept Slappy meet Billy.
Hey, the Shrunken Head became one of the mascots. Like, he was used on a lot of stuff. Like it's weird that the mascots they chose when you think about it. And like the Shrunken Head was one of those. But it's nostalgic to me, man. Like I got so much stuff with the Shrunken Head on it. Like I love it. You know, I love the design of the cartoony mascot version of it as well. And the book cover is so iconic, man. Like it's honestly, like I love it.
It is a really iconic one. Yeah, there it is.
I love that. I do. Yeah. I love that.
We got to talk about some of the.
It looks like the dude from Beetlejuice. Remember, there's like the dude with the little.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It looks like that. It looks like
Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
We got to talk about some of the episodes that our old buddy JonTron talked about. Like, we got to talk about Don't Go to Sleep. If you want bad child acting, go to Don't Go to Sleep. Oh boy, that one is. If you want a weird Goosebumps episode, that is the Mac Daddy of them all.
You know what you do before that episode plays? You get someone to do this really hard,
and then you go to sleep.
Yeah. Before it's done. You don't have to sit to it. That's one of the worst. Oh my god, dude! Like
I just gotta say, I never thought I'd see a Men in Black Goosebumps crossover. Because that's clearly what it is. It's clearly doing Men in Black. I think, like, wasn't the movie coming out around that time? Wasn't the first Men in Black around that time anyway? Yeah, so it's clearly supposed to be Men in Black.
97 wasn't it the first Men in Black? I think.
I'll have to look and see when the episode came out and when Men in Black came out, because
I just think the correlation is way too coincidental to be a coincidence. That is.
I hate sister in this episode on that damn phone. I wanted to just I wanted to rip it out of the socket on the wall. I was like, you get off the damn phone.
and Matt is like, look, bless that kid wherever he is right now. Hope he's doing well. But good God, that kid cannot act to save his fucking life. Just like when he's screaming, it's like, ah.
Well,
that's why I think of the JonTron video, because it's just like, oh.
Well, that's hand in hand with some of those other episodes too. I mean, like, not every episode has like the best acting ever. We even talked about in a previous episode about Night of the Living Dummy 3 and all their screaming when Slappy was there.
Amazing episode. That's just the one moment in that episode that you can nitpick at all you want. Like the episode is like a 10 for me. Like it's so well done, and then there's just that one part. They're like, "Oh, you didn't."
Oh no.
I can't remember her name, but she played Trina. So there was another scene too when they were trying to figure out how to stop Slappy, and they were like, "What about the card?"
Yeah, they're like,
"Oh man, her acting was so bad."
Yeah, well, yeah, literally, they're cousins of freaking ventriloquist dummy, and she's like, "Wait, we gotta find the card with Slappy's words on it. We gotta stop him. We gotta stay calm." It's like you don't seem like you don't exactly seem like you're losing your mind right now. So I think you got that under control. Also, the kid playing Dan in that one scene had like a lisp. Did you guys notice that?
Yeah.
Like that was the one scene where he had, it was like a speller shoved in. Like that was like the one scene where it's like, he was like, he got a bit of a lisp.
That's going to lead us to the other episode. Speaking about Dan Blair Slater, who appeared in The Barking Ghost. Can we just...
we got to talk about The Barking Ghost now?
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
That episode ends with a guy with a squirrel voice.
Honestly, though, the dude who played his brother looked exactly like Sid in Toy Story. Dude, go back and watch it. The brother. Okay.
He does. He really does.
Isaiah for this one, but this kid looked like Sid from Toy Story. I'm telling you now, the one that played the brother. He had the same haircut, the buck teeth, everything. Same head shape.
Did you guys notice that a lot of later season Goosebumps had scenes or like ending scenes with hyper realistic animal shots? Like I feel like Barking Ghost and I think Deep Trouble had it too. Like just a lot of hyper realistic animals or shots of animals. Teacher's Pet. They had that too. Going back, but no, I mean that JonTron video does not lie. All three of the episodes he talks about. Oh yeah, we gotta talk about My Hairiest Adventure.
Look. Think about that.
That episode is funny. I like it ironically because that episode I love. God, I love the main kid Larry in that episode because his acting is so.
Yeah, like his
acting is so bad, it's hilarious. Dessert.
When he falls off.
Dessert, was that lame or what? I don't want food. I want answers.
Guys, remember when he falls out of the tree, he goes.
Yeah, she's pretty cool, for a girl.
Chasing me all the time, stupid dogs. Honestly though, like I love the ending though when like it's just taken over and he's like, "Mom, Dad."
I remember. I'm gonna say something kind of embarrassing because I remember that actually scaring me because they used it in the Goosebumps Cartoon Network commercial, and like that kind of scared me a bit. But like now I watch it now and it's like so dumb and goofy because it's just got his head, he's got hair all around.
Man,
it's just such a goofy idea.
That ending, I feel like they just tried to do the book cover with all the hair like covering everything. I was like, they're trying to recreate that book cover at the end. Like that's all I felt.
And that's where the dog in the intro comes from. Is that episode that they used that shot?
Something good came out.
Larry Boyd on every Goosebumps intro. Larry Boyd, right there. And then we go, of course, got to talk about Ghost Beach.
Oh, I like. Do we talk about that one?
You ever hear about Aurora Borealis? Aurora Borealis. At this time of year, at this time of day, in this part of the country, localized entirely within your kitchen.
Oh, good. You liked it, did you, Sean? That was your favorite one, like one of your favorite episodes, or?
Oh no.
I liked it. I mean, it wasn't again, probably it's not even in my top 10, but I liked it. I mean, I enjoyed it. I still watch it from time to time.
I don't. I'm sorry.
You don't have to apologize. You don't like Terror Tower, so and I do. That's the thing about Goosebumps.
No,
man.
I look. I know I just talked about how I thought My Harry's Adventure was fun for how bad that one is. This one's just bad.
Yeah.
That one girl with that one creepy girl is just like has this weird like almost British accent. He's like, "Do you see the opening in those rocks?"
Yeah.
After she does like the pointless like 180 spin when she could have just been like, she goes like, "Do you see those rocks up there?"
Yeah, I think the part of that episode that really just kind of killed it for me though was the part where they're like they become the ghosts and they got like the weird skeleton faces. I was like, I mean, that like things like that. I feel like
get out of here, you bastards! I'm sick of your shit.
Like they could have done practical for things like that. I feel like maybe they could have, but yeah, like I think there's little moments of CGI in the show that you watch and you think they could have probably done practical for that, and it would have looked better. And I feel like there's quite a bit of that in Goosebumps. But that's what I mean. Like, but then you have some episodes, like the Haunted Mask, Night Living Dummy, they're just phenomenal, and Stay of the Basement is phenomenal, like and a lot of those had more practical effect and they looked great. So at any time they seem to lean more on that in the TV show, it worked better and it just
you
looked
had
better.
such an amazing you had Ron Stefanik and his crew that just made amazing like props and costumes and makeup, and then you just have like stuff like that just looks so unbelievably cheap even by 90s standards. I'm sorry, there's some 90s shows that could pull off CG better than that. I know this was low budget, but like I don't know, I'll always be practical over digital.
What I don't always understand with Goosebumps is the budget was so low for the show, but at the time, this was the biggest selling book series. So, like, how did they not have more money to make something more special? Because, well, it is special. Not saying that, but I'm talking for the dodgy parts, of the series that we're talking about, referring to. Why did they not have more money to make it look better? When you look at how big it was, how much money it was being made every month. Like when R.L. Stine said they were selling over 4 million books a month, I'm like, dude, Scholastic was just racking in. It's as if they were like, oh, we'll put a bit of money in the show, but the books are our main priority. Like it's as if, you wonder how some of that CGI didn't look better with how much money Goosebumps was actually making back then. Like it's kind of crazy.
I think a lot of that goes with like budgeting. Like you'll have a TV budget, you'll have a book budget, you'll have this budget. So you say they made $4 million a month just on books, they might be able to allocate some of that to say the TV show that was running at the time. But it was a Fox production as well, so I don't know how much they were throwing in, if anything, or if they were just providing the network to put it out there, because it was all Parachute Press, Scholastic that you saw at the end of the episodes. You know what I mean? Like when they ran the credits, you don't really see Fox a lot. So, and we all know Parachute Press and Scholastic always had their, back and forth with stuff. That's why we unfortunately lost a lot of good stuff going down the road later. And
this show was done by Saban, who was also doing Power Rangers and Beetleborgs and all that. And I mean, those shows are infamous for being, low budget and not really having great effects. So that could be another thing. It's just, it's just the studio that made it. But there is some parts where it's kind of like, come on, that looks really bad.
And that was it. Press for all this wonderful stuff behind me. Thank you, Parachute Press. I know you had your falling out with Scholastic, and Scholastic, I know you had your falling out with Parachute, but when I look at all this beautiful stuff behind me, it's all Parachute Press. They did all the licensing and all that crap. That was all them. They did all the merch. So thank you, Parachute Press, for bringing me in the fucking truckloads.
But yeah, going back to Ghost Beach, I didn't like it just because I thought the acting was bad. I didn't think it was that interesting. I think that's an episode that's really bogged down by its terrible acting, because it's just the kids don't do well. They sound like they don't know what their direction is. When it gets to the point where they meet the ghost of Harrison Sadler, it's just like, I'm not a ghost. And it's like, okay. And then the kids are like, oh, that ghost is clever, making us think we're the ghosts. And then we're going to trap this ghost, but we're actually ghosts. And then, oh, no, your grandparents are ghosts. It's just, who's the ghost? Who's the ghost?
That was the point. Is like, you're not supposed to know until like the very end and it's revealed who is the ghost.
I just love that.
It's just meant to, I think it was meant to make you guess, but like at the same time, I see where you're coming from. It was a little all over the place in certain writing aspects.
Well, that's another thing I love JonTron for, is just like, and I guess they were all ghosts, or if they weren't, I guess they are now. So, no, but we're gonna talk about one more episode before we move on. We got to talk about probably the worst two-parter of the entire series, Attack of the Mutant.
Yeah, the best. The Matt Mutant is the greatest episode of all time, because I'm a liar. That's one of my better qualities.
Okay, I will say right now, that is the best line in the whole episode. He's like, you're a liar. Yes, I'm a liar. It's one of my better qualities. Like, that's the best line of the whole episode.
Quoting there, though. Come on, you know who I'm quoting right there without saying it.
Well, let's not linger on that. But
Yeah.
no, Attack of the Mutant is hands down my least favorite two-part episode in the whole series. It did not need to be two parts. It drags on like crazy. It's
I didn't like
long. It's long. It goes on forever. And I'm sorry, it's just, I'd rather have an episode where this kid just goes into this creepy building, he finds a supervillain, there's a superhero here, like, you don't need to have him go back, like, again and again and be like, look, I'm in the comic book, look, there I am. And then you got his dad, who looks like a huge dork, I'm sorry. Like, he looks like a bigger nerd than his son is, that's all I'm saying.
Are you doing your homework or are you reading a comic book? Like, you know,
he looks like something out of the freaking 1950s.
Oh, yeah.
He looks like he's out of a 1950s B movie.
But we just remember that his friend is obsessed with rocks.
With rocks, and it has nothing to do with the episode. It never comes back. You never see rocks ever in the episode. It's just, there's just whole scenes of this kid talking about freaking rocks. And then
I hate our protagonist. I hate our protagonist, Skipper. I'm sorry. I hate him. All right.
I like him. I like the actor better in Click. I think he is better in Click than he is in Attack of the Mutant. Because this kid is just so annoying. He's just like, I don't know. This is the kind of kid you'd be like, nerd. Geek.
Like, can we talk about the random thing in the episode?
He was the kid that would make him a bully.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. It's like, I don't endorse bullying, but I'd bully the shit out of this kid. I'd be like, would you read in there, nerd? Well, and I mean, the late, great Adam West in this episode, very much the highlight. I mean, you get a star like Adam West, you know exactly what you're getting. And
you got two highlights in the episode. Adam West, and the other one, if you watch closely, when that bus goes past, there's a big
there's a big old Goosebumps ad in this episode. Read Goosebumps.
Prince Cora's
doesn't say like 2 thumbs up. It says like 2 thumbs up, Goosebumps. It's like, all right.
You're gonna have to show the audience what we're talking about.
Well, I just love Adam West. Just like, again, you get Adam West, you know exactly what you're getting. He's doing the campy Batman, 60s Batman sort of thing. I love his lines in the episode. There's a snake in my face. Like, and then I love how he just gives up in the episode. He gets like tripped over. And he's just like, I'm out of here. It's just, the kid's just like, what? Where are you going?
He just started like, out of control after sitting in a mass mutant chair, and next thing you know, he's like, "Oh, I'm too old for this."
Yeah, he's just like, "I'm too old for this shit. I'm out of here." It's almost like his paycheck was being waved off screen, and he just grabbed it while he went off set. He's just like, "Thank you."
You know, supposed to save the world.
Well, yeah, wasn't there a story where like he only would do the episode if he got to keep the costume. So Adam West got to keep the Galloping Gazelle costume after they wrapped filming. I actually like the. I will say I like the actor who plays the Masked Mutant too. I think he's pretty funny in the role. He plays that sort of campy, like, villain role. He was in Welcome to Deadhouse too. He was the hard hat guy.
He also voiced
Jarvie.
He also voiced the Haunted Mask and the Haunted Mask 2.
That's true too.
Yeah.
I'm gotta look who this guy is, but he plays the Masked Mutant.
It ended up being him who voiced the Haunted Mask.
Yeah, but he does a good job as the Masked Mutant. I like how over the top he is. I think he's funny in his delivery. Like I said, we mentioned the line before. Yes, I'm a liar. But I also like when he's dying. He's just like, "You tricked me, the great Masked Mutant, tricked by a boy." And then he's like, "Ah!" Like, that's kind of funny. I thought he did a really good job. But I just think the episode is too damn long. It's boring as heck. And it's just not interesting. I think it didn't need to be 2 parts. It could have been 1 part.
It didn't even need to be made.
No, I don't think it did either. But if you're gonna make it, don't make it 2 parts, please. I
think the book was better, honestly. Like, it's one of those stories that it doesn't translate well onto screen. Like, I think the book is just better to read it.
Yeah.
I really don't think it translated well. It's like even going off topic a little bit now, but like It Chapter 2, even though they tried to go kind of book accurate with the whole lights and stuff at the end of the second movie, a lot of people hated it. And I was like, it just didn't translate well to the big screen as it did from the book. Like, it's a weird thing, and I think Attack of the Mutants is one of those episodes that it's better as just a book, like, what they could have done? They could have even just released a comic book of it.
Yeah, I would have liked that. How we got all these Goosebumps graphic novels and comic adaptations. Why don't we have one for Attack of the Mutant?
That makes sense.
That one makes sense to make into a comic book.
Yeah.
Like, that would be cool. Oh, and one more thing. Stretch it. What a way to end an episode, am I right?
It was great. It was a great podcast on that note.
Yeah. Stretch it. Stretch what? What are you stretching?
I don't think we can top that.
No. Anyway, no. I mean, look, we rattled on so many episodes. I think the moral of the story is that Goosebumps had a lot of good episodes and they had a lot of bad episodes. I think the thing is, though, there are episodes that can be bad and enjoyable, and episodes that are just bad and I don't like watching them. Go Eat Worms, Say Cheese and Die Again, Teacher's Pet, Strained Peas, Attack of the Mutant. Those are episodes I don't want to ever revisit because I just do not like them. Well, stuff like My Hairiest Adventure and Don't Go to Sleep, those ones are bad, but I really enjoy watching them because of how bad they are. So I think it just depends on what you consider enjoyable or not. So I think that's our moral for this topic.
An old story is one that's bad, but I can watch it because it's
it's enjoyable.
Like, weird. It's a weird concept, and I can watch it, like, for that reason. And I think that's like one of those episodes too. You can watch it, but it's bad, but it's an enjoyable episode.
Absolutely. I could go for a lot of them. Well, we're going to move on to talking about some of the classic Goosebumps reprints that came out in the late 2000s. But first, we have a word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Stevie Wicks Candle Company. It's a well-known fact that everyone loves a good-smelling candle every now and then. Stevie Wicks has you covered, as they specialize in quality-made scented candles. Not only do they have a large array of scents to choose from, but because Stevie Wicks candles are made from biodegradable soy-based wax, their candles burn slower and last longer. And if that wasn't enough, Stevie Wicks not only sells single and 3-wick candles, but they even sell jewelry, making Stevie Wicks a great place to get gifts for someone you know. And their monthly subscription boxes make for a gift that keeps on giving all year long. If you're a fan of Goosebumps like we are and are in the mood for some spooky smelling scents, they also have a selection
selection for those who dabble in the supernatural, including Dragon's Blood, Witch's Brew, and Candy Corn. And Goosebumps Crew listeners have access to a very special deal. If you sign up for Stevie Wicks' monthly subscription box and use promo code LISTENERBEWARE at checkout, not only will you get 10% off your first month, but Stevie Wicks will make sure your box is filled with Halloween-themed scents, no matter the time of year. But wait, there's more. If you use promo code HAUNTED20 when purchasing your first subscription box, you'll get 20% off your first month. Or if you just want to snag something specific for yourself or a friend, you can use promo code SLAPPY10 to get 10% off any order. So what are you waiting for? Go to StevieWicks.com or click the link in the description to go snag yourself some quality made candles and snag some deals with our special Goosebumps promo codes. And of course, thanks to Stevie Wicks Candle Company for sponsoring this episode. And now, back to more Goosebumps.
So I think our next topic, we're going to be talking about the classic Goosebumps reprints. These are the ones that started releasing alongside the Horrorland series in 2008. Now, the thing with these books is that when they came out, so they had brand new cover art. They had a brand new logo. They had a brand new art. They had correlation with the books coming out. So, like, obviously the first Horrorland book was Revenge of the Living Dummy. So we got Night of the Living Dummy as the first reprint. And these were really interesting. I remember these were coming out when I first got into the series. And these were all over the place. They had bonus features in the back. They had, like, trivia. They had Q&A with R.L. Stine. They had they'd have, like, jokes. Like, in this one, in Night of the Living Dummy, they have a page for Slappy's greatest wisecracks. Like, that's kind of funny.
I remember that.
Yeah. It's like, I've seen pimples prettier than you. Like, that's funny. These were great reissues of the books.
I love the what's for dinner things I used to do as well. Like the different, like, it tell you about, like, cockroaches or, like, flies, and then it would tell you, like, what's for dinner. And it would say...
in this one, they even have, like, a guide to ventriloquism in this book. Like, it tells you, like, how you can, like, be a ventriloquist. Like, that's really interesting. But my personal favorite parts of these books, and they kind of dropped it after a while, which sucks, is the Fright Gallery. I like that they had, like, they talked about the individual, like, monsters, and they would show, like, the original cover art in this back page, and even talk about, like, some of the other books they're in. So they'd be, like, living or dead, and it's, like, both. Like, that's kind of funny.
Well, Slappy is technically, like, living and dead because, well, I mean, he's a spirit that is inside a doll, so it's like, how do you, you know? It's kind of like...
I like this. His hobbies and interests. Daydreaming about what he'll do when he becomes supreme ruler of the human race. Like, that's kind of funny. But I love these reissues, and another reason why they're so memorable is because of the cover art by Brandon Dorman. Now, we talked about this when we had Tim Jacobus on board, but Brandon Dorman was brought on to do the cover arts for these books after Tim Jacobus had left the series. And he kind of stuck around with it for... I do believe that Brandon actually was on the series longer than Tim was, because he started in 2008 and then very recently got replaced with someone new, at least I think. I think House of Shivers has a brand new cover artist from now until whenever. But what do you guys think of, I guess, first of all, what do you guys think of Brandon Dorman's artwork? Do you guys think it's good? Do you think it's good updates of the classic stories?
So for me personally, I'm a Jacobus fan through and through. I mean, his art's what got me into Goosebumps in the first place. It's what made me do art in school and almost go to college for and everything else. So Jacobus is always number one to me. However, I do like some of the covers that Brandon Dorman's done. Now, they're not all my favorites for sure. Like, there are some that I don't know, just don't vibe with me. I don't know if it's just his take on those characters or, you know, the color on some of them. Like, see that one right there, the Abominable Snowman. I actually like that one.
Mm-hmm.
I like the coloring on it. I like the texture of, you know, the snowman. I like it better, I think, maybe than Tim's. So there are some It just not.
This one is one of my least favorites. I think it took away from the original. I just don't think it looks good. Having just the mask in the background, like just not. You have more focus on these kids right here than you do on the haunted mask. Right. So I don't know, that one I didn't gel with. But there is one that I really like, and that's Say Cheese and Die. I think Say Cheese and Die has a great updated cover art. I love the skull in the camera. I like that it looks like the dude is actually dead. Like, that's kind of cool. I like that. I also like Living Dummy 2. I think Living Dummy 2 has a really good updated cover art from the original. But I still prefer the original more. Let's get that clear. The original's still good. But there was one, and I can't remember what it is. Oh, The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. This is the one that I think actually is better than the Jacobus one, just because I love the pumpkin head on it. And I love how, like, raggedy raggedy all the clothes look. I like that it's almost kind of like a big gust of wind. But the thing about Brandon's work compared to Tim's is that Tim's was a little more subtle. It was a little more cartoony. Brandon's is definitely a lot more garish. It's a lot more sinister. It's a lot more in your face, sort of. Like Return of the Mummy it's pretty much the same idea as Tim's, but there's a lot more, like, the colors are way more vibrant and in your face. Yeah. Or Ghost Beach. Like, Ghost Beach also has a ghost on it by a beach, but this one is way more like it has an actual face on it. When you compare it to Tim's, it's a faceless phantom. Yeah. Which it depends.
The lawn gnome looked pretty creepy on the Revenge of the Lawn Gnomes cover. I used to think it looked pretty menacing on the cover of Revenge of the Lawn Gnomes. Yeah, certain ones, like, I do agree, like, they have more of a creepy sort of a vibe. I mean, I'm always Tim Jacobus. He's number one to me. He's not only the number one Goosebumps author, he's God, man. He's God. He's like, you know, when it comes to Goosebumps, he as an illustrator, that's how I see him. You know what I mean? Like, he's not just like, he's not human. You know what I mean? He's not quite like a god. He's not quite human. He's like Hercules. Like, he's that in-between thing. And yeah, as an illustrator, he's definitely, oh man, like he's number one. But like you said, there are certain ones that definitely have a bit more, like, daring, like, in terms of creepy. Like, I think this definitely looks a little more creepy, disturbing.
One thing I like is that Horror Camp Jelly Jam actually has King Jelly Jam on it.
Yeah. I was just about to pull that one out. Like, obviously, it's my favorite Goosebump book of all time. So it was, I must admit, I was pretty excited that we actually got a book with King Jelly Jam on it. So, but at the same time, the one with Buddy is just...
Well, I personally think that Brandon's work definitely shined in the Horrorland books as opposed to the classic Goosebumps, because obviously those ones are definitely their own original takes on original stories, where these ones are definitely taking from the original artwork. And, like, this one is not as good. It's not as good as the original One Day at Horrorland with the sign and the monster over it. This one, it actually is more akin to Return to Horrorland with the ice cream and the horror. Even the purple, you can even see, like, even the purple of the horror is kind of akin more to that one.
The Whale for Fever Swamp.
Now, one interesting thing that this series did is not only, obviously, it started off doing the original series, but eventually it started doing Series 2000 books, reprinting some of those, and even got one Give Yourself Goosebumps reprint in there. That was pretty interesting because it's the first time we got reprints of those books, as opposed to just the original series. What did you guys think of that when you saw that these books were getting reprints?
I was pretty excited when I heard Bride Living Dummy was going to get one, because that's always been a personal favorite. Like, initially it was more like, we had already seen Slappy in Brandon Dorman's work. How was he going to do Mary Ellen? That was my question. And yeah, I think it looks, you can tell he's taken, anytime he's done a book cover, like, he's taken inspiration from Tim's work, for some of them, not all of them, but some of them. Like Shock on Shock Street, Bride of the Living Dummy, The Haunted Car, like they're all somewhat got that similar setting in the art, of course, but it's in his style. But yeah, no, I must admit, I did like Bride of the Living Dummy, and I thought The Haunted Car looked really cool. But You Can't Scare Me.
You Can't Scare Me has I like that it does reuse the same color palette. It's got a lot of the browns and yellows. I just like the subtlety in Tim's one more because I think that one's a little creepier. These ones are a lot more like misshapen. Like these ones look a lot more, I don't know. There's just something about Tim's where they look more human and thus they look more terrifying. There was another one too. I don't know. What was the one like,
Bjorn had up just a minute ago was Werewolf Fever Swamp. I absolutely love the original cover that Tim did. I mean, the color, everything about that whole
That's one of the best.
Just a wolf. I wouldn't have minded him doing a little bit more werewolfy stuff in his art, but the wolf still looks amazing. However, on Brandon's, he did try to go that werewolf route, but man, I don't know. It's just like it looks too chunky.
Yeah.
Like too much blob werewolf. And it just throws you off. I don't really like that cover.
Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls is one of my favorite Series 2000 covers by Tim. That's one of my favorite covers that Tim ever did. And while this one is more accurate to the book itself, it doesn't feel the same as Tim's.
No.
Those zombies coming out with the flesh rotting and the eyes popping out is not going to be beaten by shit ghouls.
That's one of the most daring, like you said, Tim Jacobus artworks. That one, Return to Ghost Camp, is another one. Like, they just look freaky.
We're going to talk more about Series 2000 covers when we eventually talk about Series 2000, but those covers were absolutely incredible. But enough about the covers. Let's actually talk about some of these books, because so for a while these were coming out in conjunction with the Horrorland books, and then eventually the Horrorland books stopped, and then they started coming out with ones that were related to the movies. So in 2015, we got a lot of ones that were related to monsters in the movie. So you had the Graveyard Ghouls and the Haunted Car, and you had, what was another one? You had
the Praying Mantis, Shock on Shock Street.
Yeah, Shock on Shock Street. You had the Blob that ate everyone. Of course, you had Fifi.
Not only Dummy 2 and 3.
Yeah, Shock on Shock Street with the Praying Mantis. You had Abominable Snowman, Pasadena. So you had a lot of ones that were coming out with those. And then when Goosebumps 2 came out, and these were the most recent ones, where when Goosebumps 2 came out, you got Bride of the Living Dummy, and you got the Haunted Mask 2, which I don't have, along with Attack of the Jack-O-Lanterns. I don't have that one either, unfortunately. But yeah, and those were the last ones that we got. And
they're not some of those ones. I've only found, believe it or not, I've only got one set. I'll go grab them now, but I don't have many of the. I think I have 2 of Bride of the Living Dummy because I deliberately ordered 2 of them.
And the Headless Ghost.
Headless Ghost, and I thought the Headless Ghost was going to be in the movie because they did the.
So we got Haunted Mask 2, Bride of the Living Dummy, Attack of the Jack-O-Lanterns, and the Headless Ghost. And those were weird choices because, I mean, Bride of the Living Dummy I get because you have a movie with Slappy, so another Slappy book is inevitable. Attack of the Jack-O-Lanterns, it's a Halloween story. And, of course, Haunted Mask 2. I mean, I don't know, maybe they made a little sense, but not for the fact that any of those monsters were in the movie. They weren't. But, I mean, I guess they were trying to go for more Halloween-y stories. I don't know. I just remember the original run, like the first 8. Like these were the classics. These were the Deep Trouble and Say Cheese and Die and Night of the Living Dummy and Monster Blood. Like I actually really like the Monster Blood cover on this one. I like that it's like coming out of the trash can and it's sort of forming a big monster. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess there's not really much to say about these books, but I just remember like seeing them everywhere. I remember seeing them at the book fair when I was younger.
I definitely ordered 2 of them because I got them in there. But yeah, like I only ordered one each of the other three. I only ordered one each of those, so because at the time it was like it's weird. I never saw a single one of these on the shelf. I had to order these. It's really weird. Like it's like they had a very limited run of the. I'm surprised they didn't do like with the first movie they did the movie box set, which had Slappy on one side, the Vulnerable Snowman on the other. I thought they might have done like a little mini box set that had like 4 books in it, and they would have done for these, but they didn't. They just randomly were like, oh yeah, we'll do another 4, but I've never seen one on the store shelf. So it just goes to show that I don't think they did many of these, but at the time, being a Slappy guy, I was like, well, I'm going to order 2 of this one, of course.
Yeah,
it's really weird. And they're sleeved up, especially since I only have 1 of each. Those bad boys are going to be sleeved up.
Well, and my thing was, and I think I just realized that I wrote in this book, because this is a book I've had for years. I just realized I wrote in it, or I did the stuff, but they even had like a recipe for Monster Blood Punch, like in the Monster Blood book, and they even had like, can you save the world from Monster Blood? And the first question is, if one of your friends finds a can of Monster Blood on a dusty shelf, you tell him to A, open it, B, leave it alone, or C, call Slappy the dummy.
Call Slappy the dummy!
Call Slappy the dummy! And the whole thing is you have to answer B to each question. Like literally, it's the same answer for each one.
I would say, I love you, Slappy. I'll be your slave. I'll do whatever you want. And he'd be like, oh, okay.
Hello, you call Zach Baby TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing I like about the thing I like about the early books too is that these ones, if you bought the Horrorland book and the Classic Goosebumps, it would be like, have you done everything in this map? Because we talked about how there was an Enter Horrorland game, and every new book came with a new map. So this was like, climb aboard the Hungry Crocs ride and wait till the monster police aren't looking and use their X-ray machine. I don't know. I just love that these books like kind of incentivize interactivity with the stuff that was going on at the time, alongside the Horrorland books. And I think the newer ones kind of lost that. It just became another way to tie in with the movie.
Are they releasing more of these? I swear I saw a post recently that they're doing more of the classic books. Is Brandon Dorman doing those?
I don't know. So recently, with the release of the new show, there is talks about reprints of Go Eat Worms and the Cuckoo Clock of Doom. I don't know if A, they're part of this series, and B, if they're being done by Brandon or they're being done by the person who's doing House of Shivers right now. With that being said, I don't know if they're going to revisit this series because, like I said, there haven't been new books in this reprint series since 2018, and that was 5 years ago. So
yeah.
I'm not sure. I mean, there was a 3-year gap between the first movie and the second movie, so I don't know.
And there's no Monster Blood 2, there's no Monster Blood 3, there's no Werewolf Skin, there's no Legend of the Lost Legend. Like, they haven't done all 62.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they haven't done them all. And, well, I mean, if we're getting Cuckoo Clock of Doom and Go Eat Worms, at least we're getting another 2. Like, it's almost like eventually we may get all of them. But, yeah, I think it's
well, this was the first time that Phantom of the Auditorium got a reprint. Because, another reason that these reprints are cool is because unlike the original reprints from like the early 2000s, they actually have more stuff going on with them and new cover art. But this was the first time that Phantom of the Auditorium got a reprint because it didn't in that original series. So that was pretty neat. But I don't know. What's another one?
I guess long story short, like I like Brandon Dorman's art. Like Tim said, he is a solid artist. And he said, if you look at his art separate from Goosebumps, not comparing it to Tim's work, he's a solid artist. And I mean, look, we have seen that with, I wouldn't say every single one of his Goosebumps book covers, but we've seen it with some of them for sure. Like there are some that you could easily compare with other artists from Goosebumps in the past. Like you could literally do we could do a whole video where we hold up Tim's art, the new art, and go, Tim or Brandon? Tim. And we could do like a vote We can go through all of them.
And you can certainly see that some of them are very similar to Tim's work. Like these two, for example, are very similar. Well, this one technically the original wasn't Tim; it was Jim Thiessen. But you can see where like these are kind of similar to each other. The executioner is walking down from a corridor, just like in Tim's one. But I don't know. I find it interesting that you have a series of books that kind of modernizes it, and you can kind of compare and contrast. But I mean, people know that Tim's is better.
Yeah.
Don't go around telling nobody that, but Tim's is kind of better.
Well, he's Hercules in the Goosebumps universe, like, because no one can be a god, but no one can be human, because Tim is not human. When you look at how many Goosebump books, it's like he literally was sitting in that basement throughout the whole mid-90s, just strapped to the beast, pumping those artworks out. Like, he's not human, man. Like, and he's like, yeah, he's something in between. So I'm gonna say he is Tim Jacobulus. This is one I actually like more than the original, I will say. It's Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. I like the design of this mummy more than the original, personally. There's more going on in that one than just the face. But like Return of the Mummy is, oh man, that's like, I love Tim's cover of that. I just love how it's just poking out of the sarcophagus. Just, I love that. Yeah, like that's. But I think Tim's version of Return of the Mummy is definitely hands down.
We could definitely compare and contrast all day, but I wanted to take a moment to talk about the books because they were just the ones that I remember growing up with. They were all over the place. I don't know. Did you guys have any attachment to these reprints, or were they just another thing coming out?
Yeah, like certain ones. Like, I remember before the movies came out, like, it was actually hard to find them in Australia. I'm not going to lie. I couldn't find them in Australia very commonly before the movie. When the movie came out, that's when that you could just find, like, these box sets and stuff just everywhere. And I remember really wanting, of course, Night of the Living Dummy. I had to have the new version of it, even though it wasn't Tim's. And believe it or not, they did even first, second, third, fourth prints of those books. And to find a first edition, first print of that Night of the Living Dummy 2008 version is actually not very easy to find. I've got about this many, like, I'm talking a pretty hefty stack, and I only ended up ever getting one because the one that was a first edition, first print was back when the books were first released, and I had to have them because it was Goosebumps. It was new, and being the crazy Goosebumps freak that I am, I had to get it. And not many bookstores were carrying them, believe it or not, here. And I remember that particular copy is the only first edition, first print I own. So, because like they actually did like a second wave, a third wave, and then when the movie came out, they did a massive wave that had like Now Major Motion Picture on the top. Like, I find these at book festivals all the time, like stacks of them, like, and they're all from the movie's release because they went crazy. That's what I mean.
Don't be fooled because they reprinted a lot of these, and the ones that say Now Major Motion Picture, I think they actually get rid of the bonus features. I think the reprints of the original ones when Horrorland was out, they actually get rid of the bonus features, which is something I don't like. I like having all the bonus content in here. I like that this one has the Horrorland and the classics, so it's like the original series from R.L. Stine with all new behind the scenes content. And then you also got like, ooh, this is coming in June, this is coming in August. Like, I don't know. There's something charming about that for me.
Hey, let's not forget, we've been getting Tim's book in tin form.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. I wonder if the age of this modernization is kind of over, because we've been getting a lot more of the classic Goosebumps art in reprint material lately. Like those tins. Those are the originals, as opposed to reprints. And that's interesting because that was probably the most interesting tin selection for because that one is called the 25th anniversary tin, and that is
Legends.
That is a strange assortment of books. I mean,
I'm afraid of bees.
My Monster Blood Night of Terror Tower I sort of get, but why I'm afraid of bees and Beast from the East.
I like the cover for Beast from the East. I just didn't much care for the story. It was okay.
Yeah.
It still could have been adapted to an episode, a live action episode. Pretty fun. But book itself, not so much. I never was a fan of like the reprint stuff though, because I grew up in the 90s, of course. You know, I may look like a young buck, but I'm an older one. I'm a seasoned vet of the Goosebumps world. I was there 3,000 years ago.
We had a mixture of old and, which was very weird in my opinion. They did a bit of Brandon, bit of Tim on the 20. Do you remember when they did that random 2020 calendar?
Yeah, I have that calendar. They should do more of those.
They should.
When they did bring this out, I thought there was going to be the start of a trend where Scholastic started doing the calendars again, but it was just a one-off that year. And it wasn't even like the year of the movie or anything. It was 2020. I'm like,
it was a weird year to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was the calendar in 2015 when the first movie? Where was the calendar in 2015?
And now trying to find that calendar secondhand, you know, it's hard to do. But when you do, it's like astronomically expensive.
Yeah.
Like I'm not paying for a calendar. It's like heck no.
I got two of them, man.
That's why you get them when you can. Otherwise, soon it's gonna be rare. Go get that Goosebumps game while you're at it. It's probably gonna be rare soon.
Oh yeah, probably. Like anything from
I bought two. I kept one sealed and opened one so I could show everybody. I mean, I want to play it eventually. I just haven't had time this week.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get mine.
Yeah. Well.
Box.
Well, I do need to point out, did anyone get the Slappy bobblehead from the Goosebumps movie, the promotional one? Because there was a guy selling a bulk of them on eBay at one point, and he was selling them for $5 each. And now,
really?
You can't get them now. Like, they are gone. It's as if this guy scalped them, but I don't think he did if he was selling them for that cheap. Or he just stumbled. He got a massive box that was just never used or whatever, and was like, I don't care about this shit. I'm just going to sell it for like $5. And I ended up getting 3 from this one guy. I was like, if they're $5 each, I'm going to buy 3. But
hey,
they're rare.
Lucky.
The promo bobblehead of Slappy from the Goosebump movie. Like, you can't find them now. So if anybody wants one, I think I've got about 4 now. I might sell them to you for $1,000 each.
Well, we'll have to worry about that another time because we are out of time for this episode of the Goosebumps Crew Podcast. I want to thank my Goosebumps cohorts, Bjorn Pandel, Goosebumps Aussie fan, and Nick Shawin for joining me again tonight. And go ahead and check them out on their social medias and their YouTubes. Go and check out our other friend, Micah, the Ultimate Goosebumps man, who was unable to join us tonight. Go check out his channel too. He'll be with us next week when we talk about Goosebumps physical media and how to reboot the classic Goosebumps series, or rather the new series, just our way of rebooting. So if you want to see that episode, go ahead and give us a sub over here at the Goosebumps channel for more Goosebumps Crew episodes, as well as new Goosebumps videos. And again, go follow all these wonderful people on their social medias. They really deserve it. And so for all here at the Goosebumps Crew, thank you guys for joining us, and have a scary day.